Assalamualaikum and good afternoon everyone. My name is Dr. Noshahila Abdul Rashid from the Department of Architecture, University Science Islam Malaysia. Today I'm going to present my research paper entitled Factors of Obsolescence Affecting Additively Reused Shophouses in the Coast of Malacca, Malaysia. This research was supervised by Professor Tim Heath from the Department of Architecture and Environment, University of Nottingham, United Kingdom, as a co-author. So this is the structure of my presentation today. We will start with introduction, research problem and research objective, research methodology, case study buildings, results and discussion, conclusions, and ended with references. Okay, perhaps some of you have visited the most popular tourist attraction in Malacca, which is the coast of Malacca, especially Jonker Strait. So for your information, the coast of Malacca is actually consisting of two major areas. The first one is the St. Paul's Hill Civic Zone, and the second one is the historic residential and commercial zones. Most traditional shophouses are located in the historic residential and commercial zones. These shophouses were mainly subject to the Malay, Southern Chinese, and European, which are Dutch and British influences. These shophouses are classified under category 2, where they have two options, either to continue with existing users, with a retail area on the ground floor and living quarters on the upper floor, or to adapt for new users, which is also known as adaptive reuse. However, preserving shophouses for their original use might not necessarily be appropriate as the nature of users can change over time. So, additive reuse is suggested to extend the service of such buildings and to avoid obsolescence being used as a justification for demolition. Okay, obsolescence is commonly regarded as a decreasing performance of buildings due to rising expectations. So previous research focused fully on demolished shophouses only rather than on converted or reused shophouses. However, nowadays demolition is no longer permitted on shophouses in the coast of Malacca. This is in line with the inscription of Malacca as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2008. Consequently, this study examines the factors of obsolescence in adaptively reused shophouses in the coast of Malacca. So, through this objective, the most significant factors affecting all of the case study buildings are discovered and reviewed. This could be a stepping stone for further research on the adaptive reuse practices of obsolete shophouses in this area. The survival of these shophouses is very crucial to maintain the continuous inscription of Malacca on the UNESCO World Heritage List. So this is the methodology of this research. This research is entirely qualitative in nature. Okay, it started with a literature review, the identification of the research problem, research question, research objective, research methodology, and followed with a case studies, data analysis, and ended with conclusions and recommendations. So a semi-structured interviewing technique was employed as the primary data collection mechanism, with 9 interviewees who are associated with the conversion process of the case study buildings. They are the hoteliers as the building owners, the architects in charge as the professional experts, and the hotel managers or supervisors as the specialist users. However, much of the information has been retrieved from the architects in charge. So the data collected were analyzed using NVivo software to enable the development of key themes across the different cases or cross-case analysis along with content analysis. This had been selected as the primary means of data. So what we have here is 8 factors of obsolescence, which are physical, functional, technological, economic, environmental, locational, social, and legal. These forms of obsolescence were experienced by these case study buildings before their conversions into hotel type accommodation. So it should be noted here that the factors with the highest frequency is defined as the factors that affects all of the case study buildings. So 31% of shophouses in the coast zone of Malacca have experienced adaptive risk practices. This is a relatively significant percentage in which a greater number of adaptive risk projects indicates a greater number of obsolete shophouses. So the most popular adaptive risk option for these shophouses is to boutique hotels. As such, this typology was selected for this study. So what we have here is three case study buildings. The first one is Formax Boutique Hotel, which is located at the end of Jalan Hanjebat. This straight eclectic style building was constructed in 1911 and was converted into a retail area on the ground floor and a boutique hotel on the first floor in 2012. So the second case study building is a Jonker Boutique Hotel, which is located at the end of Jalan Tokong. This Art Deco style building was built in early 1930s during the British occupation and was converted into a boutique hotel in 2010. So the third case study building is a Timeless Modern Heritage Hotel, which is located in the middle of Jalan Hang Kasturi. So the year of construction of this modern style building is unknown. Okay, but what we have here is it was converted into a boutique hotel in 2015. Okay, we start the results and discussion with physical obsolescence. So there were three factors of physical obsolescence, which were only identified in Timeless Hotel. So the vacancy and abandonment of Timeless Hotel for several years prior to its conversion into a boutique hotel had led to its physical deterioration. Okay, so an increased deterioration is caused by inadequate maintenance and repair routines where human action causes the greatest damage. Okay, the physical structure of Timeless Hotel was in a dilapidated condition with a collapsed roof at the back and poor quality material for some elements. So, good quality materials, especially for the walls and the roof, are important to make the building solid and able to keep out the weather. So the other two case study buildings, which are Formax Hotel and Jonker Hotel, never reached physical obsolescence as they were always occupied and they had been regularly refurbished for various reasons. So the second one is a functional obsolescence. The case studies reveal three factors of functional obsolescence, of which inadequate spatial capacity has the highest frequency. So the previous uses of Formax Hotel and Timeless Hotel as a warehouse, factory, shop, and residence were no longer relevant for the current needs as a consequence of inadequate building function. The small and narrow structure had prompted the need for larger spatial capacity to provide more warehouse space in Formax Hotel and Jonker Hotel. This is due to the growing sales volume and wide range of goods, and additional living space for the residents of Timeless Hotel, because there was an insufficient number of kitchens, toilets, and showers because of limited spatial capacity, and all the residents had to share these facilities. The previous building layout of Timeless Hotel was inappropriate for modern needs as it consisted of a deep inside corridor and windowless rooms for natural ventilation and lighting. So we can say that a building may be deemed to be functionally outdated because of its ineffective and inflexible layout. Okay, the third one is a technological obsolescence. There were two factors of technological obsolescence which were only identified in Jonker Hotel and Timeless Hotel. So the residents of Jonker Hotel had their own well, which was located in the kitchen at the back of this building. Up to recent times, there was still a need to source a water supply. During the vacancy and abandonment of Timeless Hotel for several years prior to its conversion, there were no electrical and water supply, even though the systems were there. However, these building services were already outdated. So the need for this technology to be upgraded or changed will have an impact on the obsolescence of all the buildings. There are occasions when expensive retrofitting will make an upgrade less attractive. And then the number of facilities such as the kitchen, toilets and showers in Timer's Hotel was limited. The limited shared facilities had become inadequate for the needs of the residents. Okay, the next one is economic obsolescence. The case studies reveal three factors of economic obsolescence, which were only identified in Formex Hotel and Jonker Hotel. Okay, traditional trades in Formex Hotel and Jonker Hotel, for instance, as a shop, factory, and coffee shop, had seen a drop in demand as these activities were considered to be old-fashioned and no longer relevant. In addition to that, the migration of residents out of the coast of Malacca also made these activities no longer profitable, since the activities were based on the demands of the residents. And the second one is rental rates for the previous users of Formex Hotel as a shop and warehouse were low and unprofitable. Failure to generate a consistent operating revenue can lead to the building being economically audited. Okay, this situation contributed to an economical building function in Formex Hotel because these users did not make much profit for the building owner. Since there is no funding available for maintaining privately owned heritage buildings such as shophouses, the tendency towards conserving them will largely depend on the potential profits. Okay, the next one is environmental obsolescence. There were four factors of environmental obsolescence identified in the case studies, none of which has high frequency because they are limited to one or two cases. So the reliance of the residents of Jonker Hotel and Times Hotel Yupon improper waste management involving manual collection for the disposal of wastewater and having a refuse chamber tube for the disposal of garbage and rubbish could have negatively affected their health and the environment. Shophouses can be more seriously threatened by pollution from inadequate waste disposal than from tourism itself. In fact, the dependence of the residents of Jonker Hotel upon an unsafe drinking water supply system from wells could have exposed them to disease related to untreated water. The previous building layout of Timer's Hotel included a deep inside corridor and windowless rooms, resulting in the absence of natural ventilation. So this led to poor indoor air quality. So indoor air quality has a significant impact on human comfort, health, and productivity. And the last one is the status of the coast of Malacca as a tourist attraction, especially after the inscription of Malacca as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, resulted in road congestion, making many residents decided to move out of this area because of parking problems. So the nuisance arising from crowded traffic and tourists could encourage the residents to leave. As a consequence, the original function of shophouses as living quarters on the upper floor would start to decline. For locational obsolescence, the case studies revealed one factor of locational obsolescence, which was only identified in Formex Hotel and Jonker Hotels. So, since the coast of Malacca became a tourist attraction, the previous economic activities of shophouses in this area related to commercial, import-export, agriculture, and industry changed to tourist-related activities. So this situation occurred because the traditional trades were considered to be uneconomical, old-fashioned, and no longer relevant, as people no longer bought their daily needs at the shop, processed their food traditionally, and had their coffee in the traditional coffee shop. So now tourism became the main generator of profits. Therefore, in this situation, the shophouses might become locationally outdated if their original function was to continue. So what we have here, a location can suffer depreciation when it is considered by the users to be less fashionable and attractive. Okay, for social obsolescence, there were three factors of social obsolescence identified in the case studies, on which changes in taste and style and human migration have the highest frequencies. So the lifestyle trends in the coast of Malacca, in terms of living, shopping, and dining, have changed. Okay. Um, um, People no longer wanted to leave their extended family in the place where they work and ran their business. Um, they no longer bought their daily needs in the shop or had their coffee in the traditional coffee shop, as I said before. The traditional trades, which were part of the original function of shop houses, are now considered to be old-fashioned and no longer relevant. So, fashion and style changes in society can contribute to the demand for building innovation or replacement, even though new materials and technologies have been already installed. So this situation was compounded by the displacement of the residents of all of the case study buildings for various reasons such as parking problems and property divestment. The migration of residents out of this area meant that traditional trades were no longer profitable because these activities were based on the needs of the residents. So in addition to that, the design of Jonker Hotel and Timeless Hotel was simple and did not have much in the way of architectural and historical values that needed to be preserved. The style of the ship houses were a mixture of a few stars, and the absence of significant values meant that some elements had to be changed or demolished. This is due to the fact that the image or style of a building can promote market interest and raise property values or rental income streams. Okay, so the last forms of obsolescence is a legal obsolescence. The case studies revealed two factors of legal obsolescence, which were only identified in Timeless Hotel. So as is often the case with other heritage buildings, a Timeless Hotel was constructed according to an outdated building code where there was less consideration of fire risk or of the requirements for fire safety. So this building code is believed to have been part of the 1822 Jackson Plan that was originally enacted in Singapore by Sir Stamford Raffles. It was soon adapted in Malacca, and it contained recommendations to build houses with masonry and to use roof tiles in order to reduce fire risk. But this building code is already outdated. So what is of greater concern is the fact that some parts of Timeless Hotel were built using flammable materials such as dried timber that presents specific concerns associated with fire safety, leading to dangerous buildings. Okay, considering all the information presented, we conclude that a significant number of these shophouses were obsolete primarily as a result of functional and social factors. Okay, for functional factors, we can see here is they have inadequate spatial capacity, where the small and narrow structure of this building with limited facilities prompted the need for larger spatial capacity for increased production and extended family accommodation. So the second one is um, a social factor, which includes changes in taste and style and human migration. For the changes in taste and style, the lifestyle trends in terms of living, shopping, and dining have changed, leading to the original function being seen as old-fashioned and no longer relevant. For human migration, the residents decided to move out of the coast of Malacca because of parking problems and property divestment, which made the traditional trades no longer profitable. So in addition to that, obsolescence has greatly influenced Timeless Hotel, and that Format Hotel is the least likely building to be in this situation. This could be the result of vacancy and abandonment of Timeless Hotel for several years prior to its conversion. Format Hotel and Jonker Hotel were constantly refurbished over time, which could potentially minimize the impact of obsolescence. So apart from that, all forms of obsolescence were experienced by at least two case study buildings except for physical and legal obsolescence. This suggests that physical and legal matters are not the main factors influencing the obsolescence of additively reused shophouses in the coast of Malacca. So it has therefore become necessary to identify contemporary functions for these shophouses through additive reuse, which is in this case into boutique hotels to keep them in active use and minimize obsolescence issues. Okay, these are my references. That's all for now. Thanks for watching and listening to my presentation.